All right, for everyone joining us, just a quick announcement. Your mic and video are disabled for this content session. And if you could please use the chat that is in the platform itself, I will relay any questions posted there to Suzanne.
All right, so good morning. I'm Suzanne Morrow. I teach at Oakland High School in Murfreesboro. I've been teaching, this will be my 13th year. Implemented the CMA program about 4 years ago. Currently teach it in conjunction with health science, medical therapeutics, anatomy and physiology, and then clinical internship. So my students take the CMA test at the end of their senior year, and we do it through the NHA platform. So any questions that you have as far as any of that goes, just please type it into the chat on the actual CTE website. There was some confusion earlier about that. So, so this is what we're going to talk about today. One of the big things going in is there are actually new medical assisting standards. This is a new class that Sloan got approved just this last year. So it's something that you definitely might want to look at. Here are the standards for it. They are aligned to the CMA test, which is excellent. It eliminates a lot of that extra fluff that you find in med-ther that's just really not applicable. It's the level 2 course or the level 3, or if you teach it as a block, you can do medical assisting first semester and then clinical second semester, however you would like to do it. I do encourage you to make it mandatory for your students also to take AMP, whether it's through the health science department or the science department in your school. There's a huge component of AMP and pathophysiology on the test. You can see the standards are broken down. There's the front office curriculum. Move into the back office. You start getting a lot more of your hands-on, infection control, that type of thing. And then you have all of this patient care. And then also, this is one of the main features that these standards have that the medical therapeutics did not, is the diagnostic component. And so this makes this aspect a lot easier because this is where you're going to get your EKG, the phlebotomy, the cultures, all of those things that are not in med-ther. So those are the new standards. You can still teach this. You can still do medical therapeutics also. I'm still doing medical therapeutics. We are not implementing this new class with these new standards this year. Probably going to look at doing it next year. Just, there's a lot going on this year already to be changing up something like this. But going forward, we are going to be looking at this at my school. But currently, I use medical therapeutics and just use supplemental learning, diving deeper, that type of thing to cover those other standards. Sloan Hudson at the state, and I discussed it, and she feels like, you know, that's still the best policy to use. The other thing to look at, this is the actual CCMA test plan that NHA provides. You can find this on their website. Excuse me 1 second. I apologize. It gives you the actual breakdown of the test. So you can see item by item and percentage wise what content is covered on the test. So you know that you really have a lot of this clinical patient care, specifically general patient care, and very little of medical law and ethics. So as you're designing your curriculum, doing your pacing guides, figuring out which assignments you want to make sure that you're covering online, assigning online modules, you know which areas you really need to focus in on to best support your students in passing that test. So this is always a good one. I keep this handy. I have this printed out and it's on my desk. I have it printed out. I have it blown up. It's on the wall in my classroom. These are the actual units that I teach in actually all 3 of my classes. I've changed my health science curriculum, my medical therapeutics curriculum, and my clinicals curriculum to align with this. And it works. So as you all know, in March, the world changed and we had to go online. I would like to clarify before we go any further, I am not a technology genius. It is an incredible struggle for me. Sloan asked me to do this presentation, but since March, I've also been on my, just trying to figure different formats out, different ways of doing things. And so what I am sharing with you are some of the things that I have found, and the things that I have used in the past. I will tell you that I actually, this year, school year, I switched over to completely online with my NHA prep material. And that turned out to be an incredibly lucky choice. And I'll touch on that at the end when I'll go over a lot of the NHA stuff. So.
Suzanne, real fast,
Yes.
we have a question in the chat asking if this PowerPoint will be available.
It will be. I did not put it in the files on here, but I will when we get done. So that way you'll have access to all the links, all the emails, all of that information. And then I'm pretty sure this recording will actually go into the onto the CTE website, so you could go back in and use it too, but I will put it into the files there. And then this is the next thing I was about to show you. I will put it on my webpage, which is right here. I will put it here on the front page of my webpage. And I don't know how much of you utilize your web pages. I've started using it more and more in the last couple of years. You can see over here, I'm trying to point, where we had our weekly online lessons going through the end of the school year. But if you'll go over here onto the right-hand side and click into the classes, there's quite a bit of information in there that I keep all this on here. So if any of you want to go to my webpage and get any of this information, please feel free. In clinicals, there's information on here, and as you can imagine, I plan on expanding it even further. But a lot of times what I'll do is, like in the pharmacology here, the first thing that I have is the actual assignment. And so it will break down, like, can you tell how many times I've opened that up today? The actual assignment for them to do. So I can just tell them, you need to go in and do the pharmacology assignment. And so here it is. Get rid of this junk. Tells them what to do, tells them what they need to complete, and then it tells them where to find it. And most of the time it's just on the website. So that's an option to do. Another thing, these are the systems that we did at the beginning of the year, or at the beginning, not the beginning of the year, at the beginning of the shutdown. We also covered some of those. So I'm not going to get into that one. We did run out of time a little bit, but it's pretty much the same concept. It's just broken down into actual days. I don't know why it won't open for me. Is it up here somewhere? No. It's making me angry. I just keep clicking. No. But it's pretty much the same concept. The only difficulty with just doing this is, how do they turn it in? I don't know if any of you all have ever experienced that before, but you do some type of online assignment or they do it and then they just all start randomly emailing it to you and they never save it and send it in the format that you want them to do it in. And then you just have 10,000 emails from 100 students with assignments. So our school's going to go with Kidem. And that's going to be questionable. Everybody's going to have to learn these new formats, but I know that a lot of schools use the chalkboard and the Google Classroom, and they have ways that you can create classes and turn in. Since the March shutdown, I have started using Teams more, which is something that our school does have. And this is what that Teams page, when you come into it, looks like, you know, the whole little waffle thing from your email, and then you go into Teams. You can create a team for each of your classrooms, and that's kind of what I started to do to get through the end of the school year. I made one for my next year clinical class, and then my current clinical class that they just actually had to take their CMA tests at the beginning of June, which that was a challenge, but we survived. So that's useful. It readily links to your student emails. You can make the assignment folders. This is the big thing. You can make assignment folders and then actually have them turn the work into the assignment folders. And that way you're not getting it 10,000 emails, that type of thing. You can also make assignments. You can also schedule live meetings. And that's very useful. I have my Teams pulled up. So this is our Health Science PLC here in Rutherford County. And you can actually go in and see, you know, we have different folders, that kind of thing. That's not what I want. And then you can make posts and communicate with the students. You could also start a conversation and then they make it where they have to post back and forth. Like a lot of those college classes do, where you have to respond to the post. You have to post something and then you have to respond, which is a good thing to start getting them used to doing. But you just create a folder and then have them turn it in. And then you can also have the internet meetings, which if we go, currently we're looking at starting school back, but if we go back all online, having the Teams format to use for meetings could be very useful. Are there any questions on Teams or anything? Something else that I have found, I've always thought of Khan Academy as like the math website, and I got into looking at it and found out that it's more than that. I don't know why this thing is being difficult. Technology, isn't it great? Here we go. I found some of they have a whole medical area. And so this is a whole unit. No. Uh-oh. Oh, don't make me do this. I should have done that before. All right, we're not going to look at the Khan Academy stuff. Oh, here we go. But there's a whole unit here on lab values and concentrations that the students can work through. So you could just have them do the assignments and then send in their results to you. But I found it kind of surprising because I thought Khan Academy was mostly just math. But there's also all of the human body systems. So that's also a good one that you could do almost like as a review, especially for clinical students, because you're not going back in and reteaching all of anatomy and physiology in clinicals, but it's a significant component of the test. So you want to make sure that they are reviewing all of those body systems. So this would be a good resource to use as a review for anatomy and physiology, is to have them do the Khan Academy. This Nearpod is the new one that I have discovered. I don't know if any of you have. I got trained on it last year, and like most of the time when you do these technology trainings, you're like, okay, yeah, and then you never use it. You get all excited the day of it, and then it just never happens. But again, in March, I had to start figuring some things out, and so I started messing around with Nearpod again, and it's actually surprisingly easy to use. If your district or your school has the contract, you can get the more advanced, which is what we have. But I'm pretty sure that there's a free format that you can use that's very limited, but it would still kind of give you that feel for it. And also there's the library, and the existing ones that you can use, or you can make your own. So this is one that I made. The best thing that I found about it was that you can literally download an existing PowerPoint, and it splits it out into the individual slides just like it was a PowerPoint. So this is, the kids will enter a code, and I'll show you that in a second, where it's the student paste. And they just go through it. I'm going to click through these slides real fast because I wanted to show you. So instead of it being just a PowerPoint that they're looking at, blah, 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 you can insert videos. So they could watch this video, but then you could also insert worksheets that they can do and actually write on. Or different documents. I've added this document to it for them to look at and then to practice. And then with the hand washing, again, there's a video, but then I also inserted the hand washing rubric so that they could be practicing that also. And then body mechanics is the same thing. And then inserted a video, and then fire safety. And then to launch it, you can launch it as student paced. And then you send this code to the students. And so you could, you know, just send out an email to your students, or in your Kidum account, or, you know, whatever. Tell them, go to Nearpod and do, you know, this assignment, and give them this code. And then you can actually monitor them and view their progress. And then they can turn the things in on Microsoft Teams because it's linked in there. So any of the work that they complete, they can submit that way. So I have found Nearpod to be pretty useful, and the fact that you can download or upload, I guess is the correct terminology, your existing PowerPoint. So that's this green highlight right here. You can upload PDFs, PowerPoints, and it asks you, do you want these to be individual slides? And you click yes. And so it just loads that PowerPoint in there slide by slide by slide, but then you can go in and add slides. You can go in, this is underlined, it's hard to see, but you can click on this convert to draw it. And like the hand washing rubric, you could convert that to draw it, and maybe tell them to self-score themselves, and they can actually write on the rubric or whatever you have in there. There's also places that you can insert quizzes that you'll click on. You can insert different things like that. So Nearpod, I think, is going to be really useful with all of us having to come up with many more online lessons. To me, this seemed very easy to take my existing material and convert it onto something that can be utilized pretty easily online. the fact that I wasn't having to recreate PowerPoints or recreate all of these documents, I can literally just upload them on here for the students to then utilize. It was also very, very easy to put the videos in there because that's something that I normally struggle with, but this one was very easy. All right, so let's talk NHA. NHA is the company that I use, and I'm pretty sure that most of Tennessee uses for the CCMA test administration. This is a link to the implementation guide. So like how you would get signed up for it. The number one thing I would tell you to do though is to go to the NHA website, which I thought I had pulled up. Hold on. Because this is a PDF that's just talking about how to implement the class. And then it talks about the features of the study guide and the practice bundle. Like I said earlier, this is the printed study guide for the test. I use this a lot in the classroom setting, but like I said, this past year we went ahead and did the online practice bundle, and I plan on continuing to do that obviously this year, but it really aligned better with clinicals to be able to give them online assignments versus always having to wait till they were back in the classroom setting. Because I don't know about you all, but once my students start going to their clinical sites, I don't see them as often. So it's hard to do assignments and have them turn them in, and then we don't have a lot of in-class time. So the more that you can get your clinical assignments online, the better. So I had already started going in that direction. And this really helped to facilitate that. Let me just go to my NHA page. So this is the NHA page that you would go to. If you go under for schools, there's all sorts of material that would help you get started. How to get started, the study materials, and the resources. A lot of times people are like, oh, where'd you get that? Where'd you get that? I got that right there. They have a lot in there that helps you get going. And then there's some contact information on here as well. But I want to go to my account. So, also, this is my email. Not all that. Morrow su@rcschools.net. If you ever need anything, you're more than welcome to email me. So this is your whole dashboard thing. Everything always has a dashboard. This is where you create your exams, you schedule exams. With NHA, you have two choices. You can either do self-proctoring at your school, which is what I've done in the past. This year we did the online remote proctoring, or you can schedule to have them go to a testing center. That's up to you. But there's on that resource page, that type thing, it tells you how to do all of these things. But with prep materials, this is what it would look like. This was this past year's students. And so I could click on course details. And then these are the modules. And if you'll notice, the modules are exactly the same as that test breakdown. So like I said, I converted everything. If you look on my website, you can have all my pacing guides, and you'll notice that all my pacing guides are these topics. So what you could do is schedule them, and you don't have to do it in this order. But you can schedule them when they're available to them, when they need to have them done by. So these are practice modules. They have review information, but then they also have quizzes that the students can take. And so you make sure that you assign for them to take the quizzes, and then you can actually take that information, or they take that information and put it, NHA takes that information and puts it into reports. So you know how your students are doing. What areas are we weak in? What areas do we need to focus more in? You know, does this student need to do another review module on something? The other thing that is included in the online practice bundle are the tests. They get 6 practice tests. And again, they get feedback on those. So the last ones that we did, you can see right here, I had assigned to my students to complete their last 2 by May 18th. And you can either enable the rationales or no. And the rationales are just, you know, when they do the answer, it tells them, you know, the rationale for that answer type thing. And then you can view their assignment progress there. But then you can also go into, once they've had a chance to do some of the practice modules and the quizzes and everything, you can actually go in and find, which one am I looking at? This one. Their information. Because you know how you know, one of your team rubric things as far as your evaluations is always about data. You can generate reports out of here to demonstrate how you were using data-driven methods to determine your instruction, blah, 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 blah stuff. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. So this is the summary page. You can actually pull up study guide and quiz utilization, how much they would used it. Some of my students got kind of kicked out and then put back in at the end of school. So some of these numbers are off, but you can see, you know, looks like they spent a lot of time in body structures and organ systems, but not as much time in basic pharmacology, that type thing. And so it can give you a really good idea of areas that you need to be focusing on. Performance by task is another really good one. And don't let it freak you out when you start seeing these percentages. My first year, I thought, what? If they're in the green, then you're in good shape. It's when, if you're in the red in anything. But this definitely, I mean, this pretty much tells you the number one thing that you need to be working on your students with is nutrition. And then you can kind of go from there. So are there any questions on NHA right now? I know that they're being a little slow to respond and get back with you. Trisha Austin, who is the Tennessee rep, has been out on medical leave. Laura Flynn is kind of who's covering her and a bunch of other stuff right now. So I know that NHA is being a little slow right now. But the other company that I've been really impressed with is, and I don't have them on the slide, but is Applied Educational Systems, AES.com. I'd never used them before because they're kind of expensive, but we got a free trial there at the end of the year. They're very nice, and they gave everybody like a month or so of free. They have everything that you need. The students really liked it, but the only drawback is they are pretty expensive. I know that some counties pay for it, and if you have access to it, I would highly, highly encourage you to use it. And if you think that your county during this time using some of the COVID CARES money, some counties may be willing to pay for it now. It's probably about $1,000 per class is the estimate that I kind of got. So it's a little bit more than a lot of the others, but I really felt like it was worth it. It covered a lot. It had a lot of instructional material. So we kind of zipped through this one. There weren't any questions today. So, oh, I did not mean to do that. So just any other kind of questions or anything? I kind of went really fast. So I did another session this morning. So I guess, so somebody raised a hand.
Yeah, I was trying to ask them in the chat if they had a question, but I'm having to refresh the chat to see it. Give me just a second.
Okay. As I say, there was lots of questions this morning, and then there's nothing. And so I'm just wondering, sorry, I have to do chapstick. Make sure, the one thing I will tell y'all is make sure that you do literacy as the code word. Okay, don't look at the 9:30 one. You are all the 11:30 session, and so your word thing is literacy. And I'll put the PowerPoint into the files. And then, so if anybody needs anything or has questions later on, you can ask me. Somebody asked me earlier if I was going to be, like, what I was planning on doing for clinicals this year. My plan as of today is for my students to go to their sites. Now, having said that, that will depend on if the sites will allow them, if administration will allow them. We got notification from our CTE director last week that they were going to support work-based learning and clinicals, and that is, so that the students could go to their sites. My plan is to do like a wellness check and have a log sheet for it every day before they leave, where they'll do temperature checks and they'll answer the questions and that whole thing, and confirm that they have a mask. And then at their sites, they'll have to wear their mask the whole time. So, but the sites may not allow for them to go. If they don't, when we're still in the classroom setting, we will do as many skills and hands-on and practice things that I can come up with. So I'm going to see if I can't figure out how to go. Chat. Look, I found the chat. Yes. The PowerPoint related should also be on her webpage. Rennie, is your hand? Do you have a question? What is the group ID or rather session ID? Yes, that session ID should come up when you go to do the survey. And then again, the word was literacy. So. All right. So, all right. So we've kind of finished up early. If there aren't any questions. Christine, are you still here?
Yeah, there was one question asking how long the platform will hold the data, and I wasn't sure if he meant the survey or the recording of this session.
I don't know the answer to that one. I think till August the 9th, I think is something I read on there, that the platform will be live and you could continue to do the surveys until August the 9th. And so to me, that means, if the platform's live, then you should be able to still get into everything. Okay.
Oh, he meant the student and teacher data used as a resource for your program.
Oh, in Learning Insights, I still have it back for 3 years. So it stays in there. I can pull up data from the last 3 years. So it's actually good because then I can, look, I'm showing y'all all my information, but you can look at where they were, each year. And then do it like state average, high school testers only. And so like you can generate that. So it's good how it'll just continue to compile your data. And so you could break it down overall or year to year. So you can compare years, you can see if consistently over a set amount of, is there a topic that your students have had trouble with year after year after year? So. Is there anything else? Like I said, my website, I have a lot on there. Feel free. I will put this into the files on here, but then I will also put it onto my homepage on my website.
Well, Suzanne, I don't see any more questions, but I did see several thank yous.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, and we'll go ahead and finish this out for the day.